Hello and welcome to the Australian Ghost Whisperer. I am James Jennings with Katerina Legato.
Hi everyone, thank you for watching and supporting.
Yes, thank you very much.
And please remember to hit the subscribe button.
Yes, do that. Follow us, subscribe, comment.
Help support our channel.
Yes, please.
Keep us going. Thank
yes. Now today's topic is amazing. Katerina and I have only had a brief chat about this, but I'm so interested in the topic. It sounds quite fascinating. So Kat, tell us about it.
I'm going to be speaking today about soul contracts. Now, soul contracts are things that we do here in the physical world. We're always signing contracts when we take out a mortgage, bank accounts, phones. You think about all the contracts that you've signed. And we also have soul contracts that we sign and that we connect with on the other side. So an example of this is that I had a client come to see me, and he had had many issues with relationships, personal relationships. From the age of 20, he fell in love a few times, and each time it came to the crunch of making that commitment, living together, marriage, he would just bail out, and he didn't know why. He just could not understand. He'd walk away, and he walked away from quite a few relationships actually. And he was always really upset and heartbroken, and obviously the girlfriend was heartbroken, and he couldn't explain why. He just couldn't go through with the marriage or the living together part, the part that needed the commitment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a commitment phobe.
Sounded that way, but it actually wasn't.
Oh.
So what I did was I tapped into his energy and I read his energy. And what happened is that I found that he, in a previous lifetime, he had been a priest. But before incarnating into that lifetime of priesthood, he made a vow to God in the realms of spirit that he would always remain single, and that for the rest of eternity he would continue to be a priest, to follow the path of God, to just be involved in all religious institutions.
For eternity?
For eternity. Go figure that. I don't know.
That's a long time.
But that's what he actually did. It is a long time. He fully, in the realms of spirit, as a spirit being, he decided that he just wanted to pursue the path of God. And he was also happy to, whether it was going to be Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism, he felt that he could evolve, that he could almost get to that point of ascension where he would no longer need to return to physical reality.
Okay.
So that his whole purpose was to be reconnected to God eternally. So every time, that's what I read, so every time he'd come into this world, obviously, he went through one lifetime of being a priest. Then he went through, I felt that there was another lifetime where he was like a Buddhist monk. So there was a couple of lifetimes where he had actually initiated that and gone through with that. But what happened with, obviously, this lifetime in this moment now was that he came as just without committing to any priesthood, basically. So what happened is that he, obviously he forgot his commitment to God. He forgot his contract that he had made. So obviously every time he fell in love, the DNA records memory, it retains memory. So the memory unconsciously would come up, saying to him, you can't do this, you can't get married, you can't get, this is, so obviously we when we come here, every time we come to into these incarnations, our memories are wiped, so we don't always remember what we have done in our previous lifetime. So basically what happened is that he forgot about his commitment.
Right.
And therefore, when I read into his energy, that contract that he had made in the realm of spirit was still there, and he was bound to that.
Right. So even though his conscious human memories didn't recall the contract, on the deeper spiritual level he knew.
Because he had made a vow, a soul vow.
But obviously that presented as being a commitment phobe. So if he's bailing on relationships and buying houses or whatever else, then that's going to look to people like, oh, well, he's got an issue with commitment. But it's obviously something far deeper than that.
It was a cellular memory, the unconscious mind also recalls and retains memories of our past lives. So anyway, so we had to really work on his energy and for him to release himself of that contract, of that vow that he made in the spirit realms, that he would now choose to have the experience of being in a relationship, still being able, because he was quite a beautiful spiritual person, still being able to pursue his spirituality, but do it in a beautiful union, in a partnership.
Okay, so he even though he was made aware of the soul contract about being the priest, in this life he changed his mind.
Of course,
is that okay? Can we?
Of course, yes, absolutely. Yeah? God doesn't hold us to any contracts. It's just what we have done at a soul level.
Yeah.
So it's up to us to we're in a to change our minds or to choose another reality or choose another experience. So he was choosing basically that he in this lifetime. He still wanted to continue to pursue his spirituality, but not be committed to any kind of religious organization, to just explore from within. And so when we actually broke that contract, he actually felt as though he had this great awakening in his heart. It was like he just felt this light bulb go off inside of him, which was really lovely. And so... And I got him to actually write it out, like that he was rendering that soul contract that he had made in the spirit null and void, and that he was choosing now to have that experience of moving forward in his life and exploring his spirituality in a loving union relationship. So that's what he actually went off and did.
Wow.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
And it is. So this is just ways that we can, sometimes we forget. We've made contracts and we forget. And those contracts are still there, holding us, binding us to a particular experience or situation. People can often, in the spirit world, make contracts to come into a particular incarnation together, perhaps in a personal relationship, and then realize that perhaps they've grown apart, they can't get on any longer, and then it's really difficult. They seem to not be able to let go of each other or move away from the relationship, and they feel really stuck, and it's like I just can't leave this person, or I can't break away from this person. And that is also because they made this contract in the spirit realm.
Right, yeah.
So you have to go back to the core of when you first made that contract, or if there is a contract, you have to kind of do a meditation and tune in and feel if there is a contract or some sort of like a promise that you've made to be able to then move away from that particular situation, whether it be a relationship. There are also generational contracts. So like we all come from a particular line of generations, and so some of these generations can also affect us because perhaps they've made a contract to experience poverty, experience struggle, experience even being sick, disease, whatever it is. It's important to also clear those generational contracts also. So if there's the lineage, you sometimes I've met people where it's like my mum's sick and my mum's mum was sick and her mum was sick, and it was they all had the same sort of sickness, and that to me is often very much a contract. So it's about being able to, again, set yourself null and void. I'm no longer giving permission for this contract to continue to affect me personally, and being able to break free from it. So yes, it's sometimes really important to think about contracts you've signed, physically or spiritually, that you've made, in order to be able to move into a new path.
Yeah.
And experience a new experience.
Because they can, if we have decided to change course, it can hold us back. I just wanted to run back to what you said about how people might have contracts where they might be like, I'm going to experience illness or poverty or whatever. And I'm certain people who are listening or watching might be thinking, why would someone do that? But I mean, my read on that is you've got to think way outside the box. If we are eternal beings, you don't get much longer than eternity. And even though our lives can feel long here while we're on Earth, people who have near-death experiences, when you hear about their experiences, they're often like, look, you look back on your life and it's like a blink. So to an eternal being, our life is like less than a blink. It's just this. So even though we might be like, why would I put myself through this? For an eternal being having an experience, it's nothing. And it might seem strange to experience things which involve discomfort or illness, but I don't know. But would it be safe to say that eternal beings, to be the most well-rounded understanding of all life beings, that they actually welcome all experiences so that they have that knowledge?
And often when we are in the spirit realms, we're so much more brave than we are here.
Yeah.
So we may choose to continue to experience a particular, say, illness, because we need to be able to conquer it.
Right.
It's like I've met a lot of people who, for example, have conquered cancer, where they've been told you've only got 3 months left to live. And yet that soul decides that, no, I'm going to conquer this. I'm going to work through the issues that created this illness within my body so that I can heal myself. And so the strength that person finds within themselves when they're able to conquer an illness like an aggressive cancer that's literally killing them is astounding for the growth of that soul, because they are then able to go beyond the boundaries and limitations of what the physical doctors have said to them, to be able to find the strength and resilience within to heal themselves. So this is amazing evolution for a soul to experience. And I'm not saying that this is the only way to experience, but it is an amazing way to be able to rise above and be able to change the reality that you are experiencing. So that's why sometimes we make these decisions to come into a particular incarnation to experience the sickness, the illness, the disease, because there's going to be great growth in that challenge of conquering that particular disease or illness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also sometimes souls choose to come back together to be able to make peace with each other. So sometimes they've gone through so many lifetimes of hating each other, and then they know, I mean, we all know that we're here to learn and to resolve and heal. So they decide to come back into the next lifetime, and while they're up there in spirit, they're like, we're going to come back and we're going to learn to make peace and put the past behind us. So these are also things that soul contracts that souls can make together. Again, when you're in the spirit world, you're really brave. And when you come here, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, do I want to do this now?
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, the main thing is that I want people to understand that it doesn't matter if you've changed your mind.
Mm.
You know, God doesn't hold us to, you know, whatever promises we've made. As long as we are growing and evolving, it's up to us how quickly we want to move through particular issues that we're facing in our lives. We can move through things at our own pace. We can change our mind about it. We can decide that this is simply too hard, so we sit and with ourselves and just say whatever contracts here I've made to this person or this particular situation, I now render it null and void. I'm letting it go. I'm sending it love and just sending it love from your heart and just asking for that release to take place.
Right.
And once that release takes place, you're able to then choose a different experience, like the guy that came to see me who had chosen lifetime after lifetime of priesthood, of being a monk, of being completely going through his spiritual evolution as just that, making that commitment to God. And he was able to then sit and change that course in his life and still continue the evolution of his soul, but being able to do that in a loving relationship with a partner.
Yeah. Well, that the concept of striking contracts on a soul level really strikes a chord with me. Like it's like I intrinsically know it's true.
It is very true.
And I feel like I even have a sense of how that appeared in my life. So many years ago when I was living, the short version, many years ago when I was living in a very haunted house, which is the one you came to clear for me, which began our friendship. In that particular house, I had like so many paranormal experiences happen to me, and one of them was, I remember it was my soul, and I must have been off in the spirit realms. I must have been, but I obviously wasn't allowed to remember what I experienced, but I remember coming back. And the reason I remember coming back is because, again, it's a vague memory, but I remember there were beings there. I wasn't alone, and my soul collapsed in front of them in despair, like the most despair I've ever felt. Like just like I was so upset. My soul was so upset, and I was like, and I've always had this inkling. It's because, well, it could be a couple of things. One, it could be that it's so amazing and blissful on the other side. I was like, don't send me back. I don't want to go back. That's one possible thing. But the other thing that it could be as well is that like there was a contract and it's like, no, you have to go back and go through these things to continue with your life. So, but I feel like there was, I don't know. Can you get a read on that?
Yeah, I feel like there was a contract that you made to experience the spirit realms, and obviously no longer be afraid.
Because it really did feel like, no, you have to go back. Like it wasn't. I didn't have a choice. So it felt like there was an agreement of, you go back, you do these things.
That's right. But learning to still grow and experience your spirituality and no longer be afraid of seeing spirits and
I did not want to go. Like, I just remember really not wanting to return. I didn't want to come back.
Well, look, I've never, I've done so many readings, like thousands of readings, for loved ones, for clients on the other side, and no soul, no spirit has ever said, I want to come back. They're so happy on the other side, because that is our true home, really. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience, but when we return to the spirit realms, we return to a place of love and support, and it's not as difficult up there. And because we are so much more present and more in our love state when we are in the spirit realms, it is much easier to grow, to evolve, to feel brave enough to return to another incarnation and say, I'm going to give this another try. I'm going to work with this person or group of people. I'm going to challenge myself to conquer a particular illness. And often people do. If you're doing the inner work, you can conquer these things and grow and evolve to a place where you no longer need to return here. I think the ultimate is that we just return to love and move forward and be able to have other experiences beyond the 3D world, because there are other planes of existence where souls reside that are so much more evolved than what we as humanity are in 3D. So it's not just that you've got to remain in the spirit world and just be in this state of love. You can move on to another planet or another place of existence and have other experiences with very highly evolved souls. So we're not the only, place of existence. There are other, as we know that. So it's also about experiencing a reality in another world where it's so much more evolved, and there's always endless learning to be done.
That's true. That's true. And if you adhere to the idea that everything is connected, which I definitely do. I've had experiences where I've very much felt that, and if that's true, then it also makes sense that the souls we encounter in this life are people that we know from the other side, and there's some kind of agreement or contract.
Exactly, we come as a group. A little soul group. We all have our little soul group that we come through with. So sometimes they could be our father, sometimes it could be our brother, or sometimes it could be. So that's how it changes. So we kind of choose a little soul group that we come in through with each incarnation.
Yeah, like it's highly likely that our souls agreed to
come and meet and do this, and it might be that we might decide in the next lifetime that we're going to go to another plane of existence to experience a different reality than this of the human race.
So getting back to the whole idea of contracts as well, is it safe to say that, like, even those soul groups, like the soul groups who decide this is what we're going to do in this lifetime, I'm going to play this part in your life, I'm going to do this, like, some people are going to make agreements to do things that maybe aren't very nice, or might, I guess what I'm saying is if a soul needs a particular lesson to grow, but that growth comes through a very tough lesson or something that's very uncomfortable, is it possible that a soul can agree, well, I will play that role for you in that life?
Sometimes our worst enemies are our greatest teachers.
100%. 100%.
And I know that's hard to take because we've all had people that we clearly don't like, but they are sometimes our greatest teachers because they are stretching us to our...
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Like, looking back on my life, and I'm sure you'd say the same thing, is the greatest moments of growth usually come through the greatest moments of challenge.
That's right. And sometimes when you're on your knees, it's like that's when you just got to get up. You know that you can't stay on your knees, and you've just got to stand up and find a way to move past whatever pain or suffering you're going through to get to the other side. And once you've done that, it's amazing, all the growth, and you know that, and you feel stronger for that experience.
So with these contracts, do you think that some can't be broken? Like, are some so...
Okay, so the only ones that I would say people would have great difficulty, and maybe this is for another episode, if you have signed a contract to the demonic realm. So let's say a lot of people, well, hopefully not too many people that are involved in demonic worship or doing black magic or doing these negative things, then they have definitely signed up to those realms, because obviously they're powering up their rituals. Those would need a lot of work to be broken. So perhaps that could be another episode if you guys are interested to speak about, because that would be another
It's a totally different topic.
Yeah, but for now, I think it's really important for people sit with yourself and just feel where those struggles are in your life, or whether it is with a particular person, or and just if you go into your heart and you sit quiet, you'll feel, and if there is a contract there or a binding that you feel with that person, you have the power to change that, to ask for it to be rendered null and void, to be broken, that it no longer holds you back, and that you're choosing to experience a different path.
Right. Yeah, that's I think that sounds like a really valuable thing to do, because if we look at the challenges in terms of like, have I signed up for this, which you very well may have, and what is the lesson? What is the lesson I'm missing?
It's wherever you feel really stuck. Basically, it's sitting with yourself, and wherever it is that you feel really stuck, or you feel like I just can't seem to change this course, there's probably some sort of a contract involved, or some sort of promise that you made in the spirit realms.
Right. Would you say in romantic relationships those are usually struck?
Well, they're the contracts of marriage too. See, the thing is that many people, I've had a lot of clients over the years of doing this work that obviously, after a marriage it hasn't worked out, we're going to go our own ways, and never bothered to actually get a divorce.
Okay.
And even that's still a binding contract. So often these people find it hard to re-establish a positive relationship with someone else. It's like something always goes wrong, and it's like, have you actually physically got yourself divorced?
Yeah.
Because that's a contract, so you're still bound to that person. So it is really important to even look at the physical contracts, marriage. Also religious contracts. Perhaps, you may have been raised by a family who were very much involved in a particular religion that you no longer agree with, or that you no longer, you've broken away from it. You may have been baptized, you may have been christened, or whatever the ritual was to that, that was connected to that particular religion. It's important to also render those contracts that were made on behalf probably of your parents null and void, and that would set you free to be able to explore your spirituality on your own terms and by your own choices, rather than whatever your parents wanted for yourself. So that's also a contract that needs to be broken. Contracts with people like that have gone bankrupt. Often that can hold people stuck in that poverty or lack of. So it's important, once you've gotten through that experience, to also render those contracts and whatever you've signed when you went bankrupt null and void. So they're just examples of physical examples of where we are always affected by contracts. Wherever we've put our signature, think about it, that's a contract. So wherever you've put a signature, and if you've moved past that and you want to change that, then you need to go through that process of rendering them null and void in order to set yourself free and start a new clean slate.
Right. Yep. Do the work. So the advice for people who are watching or listening is that by meditating and perhaps concentrating on those areas of conflict and thinking, is there a contract here? Is there something it needs to change? You can release that on a soul level too.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Absolutely. Okay. You always have the power to change the course of any contract or any reality that you no longer choose to experience.
Right. Okay.
But you sometimes have to tune into and know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, if I was going to break a soul contract, I would want you to be my lawyer who would break the...
Worst case scenario, they can come and see me, and then I can have a look at the contracts for them.
Yeah.
But, it's very empowering when you can work through it yourself, obviously.
Yeah.
And be able to go through your own personal growth. It's great, and sometimes, yes, you might need help with it, and that's fine. But like the best client who had, lifetimes of being a priest, and I mean, he really needed help. He was never going to figure that out.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. Wow. Well, fascinating topic. Is there anything else you want to add to it before we wrap up this week's show?
No, I think that's it. I think it's, again, I always believe it's really important to know thyself, to meditate, go within, and and just connect with yourself. And that's how you will know, connect with your higher self, allow those downloads to come in that will guide you through, what is always for your highest good.
There you go. Well said. All right. Well, thank you, Katerina. That was fascinating as always.
Thank you.
And thanks for checking us out, listening and watching. And we look forward to seeing you again on a future episode.